Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news as, look, some really good updates coming in this morning. João Neves, a deal is likely with Benfica, but can Manchester United do that deal? Also, FRIMPONG developments, we'll talk about that. Of course, there is the ongoing saga with Branthwaite and Zirkzee and there is new developments around that. One positive, one slightly negative. A former coach of Zirkzee at Ajax saying that he's not actually ready for a step up yet and should stay at Bologna. We've also got Fenerbahce's director flying into Manchester to try and get two Manchester United players. An update on Lenny Yoro as well. We've been linked to a Chelsea midfielder. And what about Nico Williams, who is obviously exciting a lot of people this morning. And we've also got something I want to say about Gareth Southgate, and that's about it in relation to Dan Ashworth, which I think needs saying. So, absolutely jam-packed show again this morning. I think we're going to need the old bookmarks for you again a little bit later. This is the show. This is the news. Look, I have to do this show every morning. And I don't want to wake up and just say Zirkzee deal could happen today or Branthwaite, we could walk away. I mean, look, if that's a development, we'll bring it into the show. But so many people are going to be talking about that. Slow sports news. I need to feel satisfied and excited, and it's the same for you. And we go and find the news that's out there that others don't find. And I want to start off talking about João Neves because I've had a feeling that Manchester United could do this game, could do this deal. I really have. I think that there is obviously interest. We've been scouting him for a very long time. And the story just won't go away. And Man United don't seem to want it to go away. And overarching there is that impossibility that it's going to cost 120 million euros because that's his release clause. However, there is some very, very interesting stuff that you can get by just doing a little bit of research. Benfica are financially in trouble. Now, Portuguese reports are saying that Benfica may well sell João Neves this summer at a cheaper price than his release clause for two reasons. One, is he actually a 120 million euro player? And two, they are not getting enough interest in other players to raise money. Now, Benfica are in financial issues. They are. That's the bottom line. They're not broke. They're not pulling levers, but they're not in a great financial situation, and they haven't been for a long time. This were the words of their president, actually, Luis Mendes, back in April. And he said, if we want to invest in the training facilities, in the squad, then we have to sell. And when selling players, it's about the market at that point. Is player A value for money at the price we're looking to sell them for? And I think this is a really interesting point. Benfica will need to sell this summer, and they'll have to sell in a market that dictates the price of that player. They have to sell. They can't sell a player for 120 million euros that no one gives them the money to. So therefore, if that's the player that's going to bring the most money in for Benfica, then they will have to adjust their price based on the market. Now, what the price for João Neves will be, I don't know. And whether Manchester United could still, put a deal together. But more and more, it sounds like it won't be 120 million euros, and that is probably why Manchester United are hovering around. And a João Neves deal this summer is likely. Now, whether it's going to be in the red of Manchester United, Arsenal, Bayern Munich or whatever, the deal is likely. And while he's not in the Portuguese starting lineup, I think that helps us even more, like Branthwaite not being in the Euros. So, look, I think that I don't want to dwell on it too much because there's so much to talk about this morning. I want to talk about Frimpong, Conor Gallagher, Nico Williams, and what's going on with Lenny Yoro, and a few other bits as well about Zirkzee and Branthwaite. But we are looking at João Neves. He is our number one midfield priority. And can we put a deal together that is beneficial to Benfica, that they would think about doing the deal with us? They apparently expected more interest in their centre-back Silva, which has not been forthcoming at the price they would like. So that ultimately could lead to something as well. I like this player. I think United would like to operate at about £60 million for him, which is, nearly half what the release clause is. But release clauses aren't always there to be hit. And I think people need to understand that. Just because someone's got a release clause, I think, what was his name? The guy, Saul Niguez. Whatever happened to Saul Niguez? What happened to him? Apparently he had a release clause of 200 million euros. Nobody ever paid it. I think people get het up on release clauses. Your price is dictated to by what the market is. I think this market is changing. I really do think this market is changing. And I think that Premier League clubs, because of FFP, because of profit and sustainability rules, they are having to, shop accordingly. I mean, it's amazing to me that Aston Villa have made it to the Champions League, but have got to sell good players to survive. It's, whether it's right or wrong, it's true. So I think that these release clauses that people get, over the top about, I wouldn't be that fussed about it. I really wouldn't. Talking about release clauses, it's got nothing to do with the show, but Fabrizio Romano did put a tweet out an hour ago talking about Nico Williams, who I know a lot of you were very excited about after Spain's win over Italy last night. His release clause is not 90 million euros. It's actually worth about 58 million euros. Fabrizio said interest in Nico is very normal, but he's very happy in Bilbao. And the president has said that we're not happy, we're not worried about him at all. I think he was linked to what's his name? He was linked to Liverpool not that long ago, and there's talk of 250k a week. I mean, we're not in for Williams. Like, I don't think that we can, even profess to be that concerned about that. Anyway, just an update on that because his release clause isn't so big. And look, on Williams, I don't want to scout players based on the Euros. I don't think anybody wants to do that, but he is a good player himself. I want to talk to you about Frimpong and the latest about that. We can come back to the story about João Neves, but I'm just dropping it out there that a deal is likely this summer, whether it's with Man United or somebody else. A deal is likely, and negotiation around the release clause is likely as well, as Benfica do need to sell, and he looks like he's their most sellable asset this summer at the moment. However, that can change. That can change. Remember, we were talking about how Everton have strengthened their position. They will not move away from this ridiculous valuation. I mean, I've got to be honest, Everton can do what they bloody like, and Man United can do what we bloody like as well. I mean, Everton are Everton and Man United are Man United. We have a good relationship with them. If they want to burn those bridges on stupidity, that's up to them. Crack on. Absolutely crack on. But it's... hold on a minute, I've got Ben Foster ringing me. He wants to do a little video, but I said 11 o'clock. He's in Germany. 11 o'clock is there, 10 o'clock. Anyway, Aston Villa, let's talk about that. Yeah, he just said, oh yeah, Premier League footballers, they're not that bright. Anyway, let's get to it. That was a joke, by the way. Let's get to it. We were talking about Branthwaite, weren't we? So on Branthwaite, not gonna dwell on this for too much because everyone's talking about it this morning, and it really isn't that big a story. Man United could walk away. Everton are basically not having to sell by June the 30th. They needed to raise a little bit of money, and it looks like they're going to do it. So therefore, they're apparently saying to Man United, if you don't go to stupid levels, we're not going to sell Branthwaite. As I said last night, I was a little bit drunk, but I still talk sense a lot of the time. And what I said was, let's call it for what it is. If Branthwaite wants to wear the new Everton shirt and Everton want to say he never wanted to leave anyway, happy days. Go and swim in your sea of lies. Because for us to agree personal terms, Everton have to allow us to talk to the player because he's under contract. There's no release clause. He's not out of contract. So for Branthwaite to agree personal terms with Man United, Everton have to agree for us to talk to him. So if that has happened, and it's widely reported that, Branthwaite agreed personal terms with United, that means Branthwaite agreed to come to Man United and Everton agreed to sell him to Man United. So if you want to keep Branthwaite with your stupid valuation, crack on. But everybody knows you were willing to sell him, and everybody knows he wanted to come to Man United. So when you're playing against Ipswich next season, fighting for relegation, and you've got Branthwaite shirts on, just remember, it's not our fault. We came in with willing to negotiate on a reasonable fee. You said no, up to you, well done. But when you're fisting the air, saying, ooh, Everton through and through, your club tried to sell him, he wanted to come to us. These things happen. Crack on. Good luck with Branthwaite and Everton next season if that happens. will go and buy somebody else. It's the circle of transfer life, and I'm just really not stressed about it. My only point is, let's not pretend that we've been owned by Everton or anything like that. They were trying to sell him to us. He wanted to come to us, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. We can't pay silly. In fact, I think Man United have behaved very respectfully and very professionally, because we've obviously spoken to Everton, then we've spoken to the player, then we've tried to negotiate a deal which they don't potentially want to do. I still believe a deal can happen, but Everton are obviously playing hardball. The update I was going to give you was actually from Fabrizio, saying that Aston Villa are advancing in talks to sign Lewis Dobbin from Everton. Meanwhile, Everton have signed their midfielder for a fee around 9 million, as reported, all set to be sealed. Now, I don't know how much Dobbin is going to go for, but that does that. Basically, it's estimated that Everton need 3.3 million not to breach PSR regulations. The sale of Dobbin would put Everton over the threshold. So, effectively, Everton are doing these deals to keep them compliant, which means they don't need to sell Branthwaite at a cheap price. So there we go. They've played the game. And as Drip Football says, they're trying to milk us. So look, Branthwaite, I think we've put it on the thumbnail, because I said I don't always do the thumbnail title, and I said time is up. Time is up. We cannot piss about with football clubs who are, trying to milk us. We're not here for that. This happened with Leicester and Maguire. It happened with Wan-Bissaka and Palace. It happened with Sporting and Bruno. It happened with Dortmund and Sancho. It happened with Ajax and Anthony. I would walk. I don't give a shit. I'm not bothered. I'm not really bothered. No player, unless it's, prime Messi, is worth wasting your whole summer on. There's plenty more fish in the sea. And if I was Man United, I would be looking at UEFA on the Todibo stuff. I'd be speaking to Palace about Guehi. And I'd be saying to Palace, look, I like Branthwaite. I do like Branthwaite. But Guehi is playing as a left-sided centre-back in the Euros for England and has played really well for Crystal Palace. If I do a poll, who would you rather have? I don't know where this is going to go, but we're in control here. It's a buyer's market. Not everybody's got money. We know that. They haven't. We're talking about João Neves. Benfica would love £100 million for João Neves like they got for Enzo Fernandez from Chelsea. But they're not going to get it because nobody's got it. So it's a buyer's market. And I think people need to realise it's a buyer's market. And I think I sit here totally happy for the first time in years that there ain't no way. I want United to walk away from deals. I want Man United to be clever with the money that they've got. But honestly, I've spent the last 12 hours slating an England manager, which I genuinely think I could do better than, blindfolded and pissed. But in relation to our ownership around the footballing side, I sit here comfortably. Not just because I've got a cushion from a bad back, but also because I know that Ineos, when it comes to business, would tie me up in knots in 10 seconds. So it's all right as going, don't get taken the piss out of by Everton. We need to have other options. If there's one thing I will sing from the rooftops about Ineos, is that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos will not get taken for a ride. They just will not. It won't. It won't happen. It won't happen at all. So I'm absolutely convinced that we will be, absolutely fine. Sorry with the volume a little bit. I had to change microphone. The other one just didn't work about 2 minutes before. That's why I was 2 minutes late. So I've gone back to the old one, and I've just had to adjust the volume level a little bit there. But it might have gone a little bit loud for everybody, by the way. If you have, just turn it down a little bit. I'm not surprised it's a little bit low. Anyway, so yes, going back to what I was saying there. If I was Manchester United, and I know for a fact Sir Jim and Ineos will be doing this, Branthwaite-Everton deal, let's be honest... Let's be really honest here as a community. That Branthwaite deal stinks of Harry Maguire, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Anthony, Bruno, Sancho. And what I mean by that is we've all walked this path before. This is going to drag on until the end of July, and we're going to pay a big fee and we're going to pay big wages, and he will end up holding up a Man United shirt. And we all know that's what's going to happen, which is why I'm saying on the thumbnail, time is up. Because do you want us to go down that pathway and give Everton 60 million quid plus add-ons? Or would you rather go, up yours, see you later, no one else wants to buy him, and if they do, good luck to him, but see you later, we're off to do something else. Because you've got De Ligt, you've got Guehi, I still think Todibo, keep an eye on that. You know, Bremer at Juventus. There are so many options. I mean, look, there are so many options. And look, with Crystal Palace, Guehi's only got 2 years left on his contract. Now, I was told in March, keep an eye on Guehi to Manchester United. I think that's changed a little bit because I don't think in March Crystal Palace would have anticipated that, well, they wouldn't have done, that Guehi would be starting for England playing well. So that complicates the issue, of course, because we know that adds money on. But honestly, if I was Man United, I'd be on the door to Palace going, look, we're looking to do a deal with Everton for Branthwaite, but honestly, we do like Guehi. What deal are you looking at? And if Crystal Palace say, yeah, we're looking at 60 million straight away, you go, thanks, see you later. But I don't see a centre-back buying market for anybody out there. I really don't. And I think you've got to play the game. And if you don't get Guehi and you don't get Branthwaite, you go and get someone else. Because the centre-back market is at Anacho at Sporting Lisbon. You know, there are so many players out there. Have you seen that Villa, Everton and Chelsea are possibly under investigation for selling players specifically to each other to help with PSR, says Tejas. I don't want to comment on that, Tejas, because I haven't seen anything about it. But when I saw that Romano tweet earlier that Villa were going to give Everton 3 million and then they're going to give them 9 million, I did start to think that clubs will start to find a way. I mean, look, we've seen Man City do it with Savio. You know, loan him to Girona from a crappy French team. Girona get in the Champions League, but then they can buy him from the French club. People are finding, you know, UEFA can't. I worry about the FA, the Premier League, and UEFA because I don't think they've got the intelligence of the football clubs. Maybe it's a wage thing, I don't know, but there's so many loopholes here. I mean, Everton are suddenly in trouble, and Man United might get a deal. And then suddenly Everton are selling a player to Villa, and Villa are giving them a player as well. It's, you know, it might be completely innocent, but clubs are in that. You know, I'm not criticising those clubs. If there's loopholes, they should go for them, of course. We should go for more Premier League proven talent, says Sanil. Mark, says Rasmus, just wondering, would it make more sense to get one centre-back and a left-back because we can play Luke Shaw at centre-back? Well, we don't know whether Luke Shaw is going to be fit. Razmeister says, Southgate as United manager in 2026. We aren't doing well because we haven't got a natural replacement for McTominay, says Raz. And Acid23 says, 1 year almost to the day I said about Williams or Chiesa. Williams is exciting. I'd love him to be our winger or Chiesa. What United youngsters are there who can step up, says Keel. I think next season you're looking at Collier. I think it might be too soon for Amas and Lacey. But there's loads of players. It just depends on when they're ready. There might be a 16-year-old like Rooney, who's 15 at the moment, who's 16 and is ready for the first team. I think that's the exciting thing about United's youth setup. It's just about when they're going to be ready. Some of them might not be ready till they're 19. Some of them might be ready at 18, 17. So there's just so many. I wouldn't even like to name names if I'm being honest. Rasmus also says, when will we have our first signing? I mean, I'm hoping we'll have something done by the end of the month. I'll talk to you about Zirkzee in a minute. Southgate opens submarine door to let fresh air in, says Stephen. Look, I have got one thing to say about Gareth Southgate that's Manchester United relevant, and I will leave this out there for you. Dan Ashworth and his relationship with Gareth Southgate is concerning. I don't know that Gareth Southgate was ever seriously going to be our manager, but what I do know is, and we all know, is that he's admired by people within Ineos, and we were nearly going to sack Ten Hag. So who knows where that would have gone? Who knows where that would have gone? But what we do know is that Gareth Southgate ain't a Man United manager. He ain't a Maidstone United manager either. He's rubbish. But all I would say about that is Dan Ashworth and Gareth Southgate are tight. And Dan Ashworth thinks a lot of Gareth Southgate. This guy is going to be Man United's director of football. All I'm going to say is, let's back him. Let's hope he does really well. But let's remember, he's never played for Man United before. He's got no history with Man United. He's coming in as a reputable director of football. He starts at ground zero. He's got to earn our respect and trust. And all I would say is, in relation to Dan Ashworth, the Gareth Southgate thing, ain't a good start, mate, is it? So he needs to come into Man United and do a good job and prove to us that he isn't some, overhyped, not hipster, shitster. Because but look, I don't want to talk about Southgate, but I said this morning, the media and the ex-players who've been backing this guy for 6 years are to blame why he's in a job. Most England fans wanted Southgate out years ago and were still right. So Ashworth, I presume, sits with the people who think Southgate's good enough. He's got a big job to do at Man United, but I'm not worried because he doesn't come in with let's trust and respect him. He's got to earn that trust and respect whenever he starts. So I'm not really that concerned. As long as Man United are not held hostage by clubs, plenty of players just need to think outside the box. Let's see our next move, says John. Thank you very much to that as well. Let me talk to you about Frimpong. So I wonder if I can get this up, actually. I'm sure I can do. If we look at this hotometer, which does need updating because Todibo as an 8 is not obviously the right thing at the moment. But Branthwaite, we've spoken about. Todibo, we know that's probably off the table at the moment. Olise, obviously gone very, very cold on that. It looks like it's going to be staying at Palace or going to Chelsea or maybe Newcastle or Bayern Munich. Although, again, I wouldn't say we're out of that race. Zirkzee, I'll speak to you in a moment. And they got Frimpong. Again, this hotometer is turning into, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's just turning into Scott McTominay. They're all disappearing. But they were all, when this hotometer was sort of set up in March and adapted last week, all very, very viable. I mean, João Neves is still there, but that's a long shot. We know that. Frimpong, the cursor meter, says Shane. Frimpong, the latest on him, unfortunately, doesn't actually make him get any hotter. It makes him get a bit colder. He needs to put his scarf on because Hansi Flick is at Barcelona and he is prioritising Frimpong as a signing. And you can just see that. You can just see that, can't you? Dutch players playing for Barcelona. He's playing in the Bundesliga. Hansi Flick obviously has a good knowledge of that. So it's now looking like Barcelona could get this deal done. And I again, look, I don't know what United's trying to do. Obviously, they've got a budget, but I think that the big issue is here that this is a player that I think would be transformative for Manchester United. It's a player that we've wanted for 2 years. It's a player with a reasonable release clause of 34 million quid. And, I sort of look at it and go, Wan-Bissaka goes for about 20. Wan-Bissaka, if we sell Wan-Bissaka, his transfer fee shouldn't be going towards Zirkzee or Branthwaite. It should be there for a replacement right back. I think people sell players and throw it into a pot and go use it for that. But if you sell Wan-Bissaka, you need to buy a right back. So if you sell Wan-Bissaka for 20 million, then that 20 million needs to go towards a new right back. So that would go a long way towards Frimpong's release clause. It's cold on Frimpong for Man United at the moment. Honestly, it is. He is part of the Euros. I don't know whether right back's going to be a priority for United. It might be one of those things that we just carry into another season. And what I mean by that is United might look at it and go, look, right back was probably the one area of the pitch last season that we didn't get any injuries, really. We always had Delo, Wan-Bissaka for most of the season. We could just do that again. The problem with that is I don't think Wan-Bissaka actually wants to stay and be a backup to Delo. I think he wants to go. So I think it's an area that United would like to do something with, but is low priority at the moment. And if Frimpong ends up going to another club, then I really don't know where else we would go anyway. But I'm not convinced that Wan-Bissaka actually wants to stay at Manchester United. I'm really, really not. Yeah, so that's the update on that. Unfortunately, it's not that good. But as I say, they're dropping like flies off there at the moment. And I remember looking at that in March and saying I'd love to get 4 or 5 of those, 7. And at the moment, it's not looking good, bruv. But it can change. It can, of course, change. There's no doubt about that. Dominic Solanke should be considered as a striker, says Sanil. Sanil, you're throwing out so many bad misses today. I think I'm going to call you Timo. I mean, what was your other one you said? Are you doing it on purpose, basically? Because you are talking absolute crap. Solanke would be ridiculously expensive, and we're not going to sign him. Lloyd says, anything on Rabiot? Only what we heard yesterday from Italy, that he's waiting for Man United. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Remember, with Rabiot, he's not a player for the next 10 days, really, because he makes his mind up in July when his contract runs out with Juventus. Let me stick with Italy and talk to you about Zirkzee, though. Look, just a bit of extra news. Brian Roy, you might remember him. He played in Italy for, I think it was Foggia years ago. Dutch international. I think he played in the World Cup in probably 98, maybe he was in the Dutch squad. Apparently he's a coach for Ajax. He's been speaking about Zirkzee and has basically said that really good player, but unlike someone like Koop Meiners, who's ready to take that step up from Atalanta, he says that Zirkzee's not actually ready to go to a big club this summer. He really should stay at Bologna for another year, play under a different manager now that Motta's gone, and carry on his development for another year, which is an interesting take. I know some of you won't like that, but there has been, there has been a bit of debate over the last 48 hours, certainly on social media amongst Man United fans, about whether we're buying the next superstar or the next flop. And I think that, in fairness, the exciting thing about Zirkzee is he does sort of operate in that sort of medium ground where it is he ready, good enough to take that step up to the Premier League, or do you actually need another year to take a look at him? I would sort of liken him to Darwin Núñez, actually. Maybe Darwin Núñez at Benfica was a little bit more high profile, but I felt with Darwin Núñez, he was at Benfica, he'd had a really good season. We were interested, a lot of clubs were interested. Obviously, he went to Liverpool, but I remember saying at the time, you can understand why Liverpool and other clubs bought him, because there was competition. And Chelsea had sort of changed the market where you can't be patient with the signing now because of competition. You have to go and get it. I think Chelsea went early on Enzo. I really do. But, you know, that's what clubs do now. They go early. But I remember saying it about Darwin Núñez. I felt like he needed another year at Benfica. I don't think he was ready, really, to make that step up so soon, but the market dictated that it needed to happen because people were pushing for him then. You know, I don't think Man United are in a position, maybe Zirkzee does need another year at Bologna, but Man United can't facilitate that. If the player wants to move and there are other clubs ready to buy him, you either go for it or you don't. There is a risk with Zirkzee. I think I would agree that I'd like to see him do another year at Bologna and just see what he does in year two. But I felt that about Rasmus at Atalanta as well. I think, you know, he's another player that you would like to have seen do another year at Atalanta. But that's not the way the market is now. You have to take that punt. And I think at 34 million quid, as long as we're not chucking the agent 10, I don't think it's a bad punt. I mean, look, strikers are the stars of football. They score the goals. They create the goals. So £34 million for, a guy that looks really exciting that might not be ready. It's not bad business, is it? So what's actually happening with Zirkzee? Nothing more than on a deal, nothing more than what we knew yesterday. Man United are preparing a bid. I would still say it's very, very likely that that deal's going to happen, but there are some concerns around what the agent is doing and what he's trying to facilitate there. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Let me talk about Lenny Yoro. Some of you probably won't be that surprised about this update, but some of you still are talking as if he's a player that's coming to us. Basically, the latest from Fabrizio on him is that Manchester United are struggling to fight Liverpool, or more prominently Real Madrid. I would question with Yoro, actually. I know I get confused myself. I would question with Yoro whether we actually were in for him. I was trying to remember who linked us to him. I seem to remember there was some credibility to the sources. But you know what? We have our own transfer. We have the hotometer, but we have our own transfer rules here, if you knew. We have 5 principles when Man United get linked to a deal. 1, it's total shit. 2, it's totally true. 3, it's a club using United to garner interest. 4, it's an agent using United to garner interest. Or 5, it's an agent using United to get a contract where they already are. And I think with Yoro, this has always been Lille using Manchester United, who they know want a centre-back, to generate a higher fee or a bidding war between Liverpool and Real Madrid. And ultimately, they also know that Yoro wants to go to Real Madrid. So they're just trying to push the price up. And I've got to be honest, if I was the president of Lille and Real Madrid was saying, the player wants to come to us, we know how this ends, take the 30 million and shut up. If I was the president of Lille, I'd have a look around Europe and go, Man United are looking at centre-backs. Right. Man United want to offer £40 million for Yoro. I'm not convinced we were ever in that race. And the reason I don't think we're in the race is because it's so obvious. It's like proposing to a girl or who's already been proposed to by their dream man. Like, you're wasting your time. Doesn't matter what you've got to offer. And I think that's basically where I don't think we were ever in for Yoro, and I don't think Man United are that thick to go in for Yoro. So look, I think we need to just cross that name off. I still keep seeing people, let's move away, let's not get Branthwaite and let's get Yoro. And I'm like, that's not how football works. We're just not in for him. Freddie says, Baldy unhappy at Barca, Frimpong in make it worse, says Freddie. Will we look at Danzo or try and push for Todibo, says Nick James. Well, look, I don't think we will look at Danzo. I think you're talking about the Austrian centre-back, aren't you, who plays for, is it Rennes? But look, you make a great point, Nick. The centre-back market is absolutely incredible, and we should be looking at it and playing the game. I mean, look at the poll this morning. Either or, Guehi or Branthwaite. 63% going for Guehi, 37% going for Branthwaite. I don't think I can answer that question. I would like to buy both, because I think that they would be both very good centre-backs for Manchester United for the next 5 to 10 years. Both homegrown, which is a bonus in relation to the rules. We won't buy both because of the price. Honestly, if somebody said to me, they will cost you the same money, who would you go for? I'd probably flip a coin. And I think that's a positive, because that means don't get locked in with Everton for the next 7 weeks and get bent over on a fee. I would look at Guehi and Branthwaite and go, flip a coin. I don't really think I have a massive issue with either player. I would be happy to have both. And I'll tell you what, if Guehi's holding up the shirt and Branthwaite stays at Everton, I'm not crying that we didn't get Branthwaite. And if Branthwaite holds up the shirt and Palace keep Guehi, I'm not crying either. And that's what I'm talking about. It's a buyer's market. There are plenty of players out there, and we must move on. You just go, right, I'd be on the phone to Everton today and I'd say, I've seen you've done your little deal with Villa to keep your PSR and FFP in check. Well done for finding your loophole there. Back to business. You've told us we can talk to Branthwaite. You've said you want to sell him. He wants to come to us. That's all you're doing. We've now sat down to do a fee and you're saying 70 million. Right, okay, you've wasted our time. You've exposed yourself a little bit because your fan base knows he wants to come to us and that you were willing to sell him, but you can find a way around that. Do a photo shoot with the new kit, fine. Let's talk for the next 20 minutes and then we walk. Let's talk and we walk. We've offered you 35 million plus 8, which is 43 million. You've put it out there that you want 70 million. In the next 5 minutes, tell me what deal you will do. Well, it's complicated. We need more than 20 minutes. It's really not. It's really not. We will not give you more than 45 million now, but add-ons we're willing to go to 60. Final offer, no negotiation. Is that a deal you're looking to do? We can dance around if you want, but are you willing to do it? No, we would like 70 million. See you later. Have a good season. Goodbye. And you walk. You walk. It's not difficult. Everton either want to do a deal or they don't. And you walk. Don't waste any time. And you pick up the phone and you go, you know what? Let's see what Palace have got to say here. Let's see what this player's got to say here. There are plenty of other options out there. The great thing about the summer transfer market for centre-backs is one, it's a buyer's market. And what I mean by that is there's not a lot of clubs looking for centre-backs, but there's a lot of centre-backs looking for moves. So it's a buyer's market. Simple as that. And the second thing I would say is that transfer fees are realistic because not a lot of clubs have got a lot of money. Look at Mason Greenwood. Loads of clubs in Europe want Mason Greenwood, but nobody, even though he's a good young prospect, nobody can find £35 million to pay for him. The market is a buyer's market. It's as simple as that. And, you know, I think 3 or 4 years ago, we wouldn't be able to move for offers for Mason Greenwood around 40 to 50 million pounds. But the market's dead. Barcelona are broke. We've spoken about Benfica. Real Madrid have done their business, basically. It's going to be Mbappe and Euro. Bayern don't have loads of money. They need to sell to buy. PSG, well, they've got money, but are they the attraction they used to be? Premier League, yeah, Man City will have money, but they only really need to buy one player. You know, it's a buyer's market. And if these... You either stay where you are or you sell. It's as simple as that. Anyway, so Guehi, 63% would go for him over Branthwaite. As I said, I'm more than happy to sign Branthwaite. I think he's a good player. I know some of you don't. I do want to sign him, but as I said, it's not... The great thing about this market as well, so there's 3 things, is there isn't a player there that you go, if we don't get him, I'm going to be really moody. I'm going to be so frustrated. Like, you know, I'm trying to think of a player from the past that if we hadn't got them, you'd be like, well, plan B shit. Maybe you'll know in the chat. But, you know, look at that. If we don't get Branthwaite and we get Guehi, you wouldn't be there going, oh my God, I really can't believe it. We didn't get plan A. I think plan A around centre-back, I don't think there is a plan B. I think they're all pretty much A's, really. They're all around the same. Mark, update on Lindelof to Fenerbahce, please. Yeah, well, I was going to bring that into the show as well. I mean, my only issue with this is it's not going to be really great money. But apparently the director of football or CEO of Fenerbahce is flying to Manchester to discuss Lindelof and Casemiro. I wouldn't be surprised. God, there's a new guy in town that I just think he's like being thrown around the Man United. Have you seen this Christopher Mikel journalist that everyone's retweeting? I've never bloody heard of him until this morning, and I'm like, everyone's quoting him like he's, you know, on the Man United board. No. Not interested in that. In relation to Fenerbahce, they have been linked to Victor Lindelof for quite a while, and you know, it's interesting. There's no doubt about that. My only concern about that is the price. He's only got a year left on his contract, Lindelof, but I think Lindelof with a year left on his contract would still be in the 10 to 15 million pound bracket, surely. And Fenerbahce are going to do this deal for about 8. But you know what? Let's not forget, this is not Ineos's fault. This is a Woodward legacy. The wages of Lindelof are ridiculous. And I think they're about 120k a week. So when you look at the fee of Lindelof at 8 million, it might be a little bit low, but remember the wages are going to have to be factored into that for Fenerbahce. So 8 million might be what we look at. I mean, the problem you've got is that if Lindelof goes, you're left with Martinez, Evans, Maguire, Camboire. You're probably only going to buy one centre-back. If Lindelof and Maguire go, you're probably going to buy 2. But where are we generating the money from? That's the problem. And also, I don't know what Maguire's plans are. Maguire should be knocking on the door and saying he wants to go, because he won't play much football next season if we buy a new centre-back. It'll be Martinez and the new centre-back. So he won't play as much. Guehi's done really well for England. People will say Maguire's finished for England now, which is unfair. He would have played every single game. So if I'm Harry Maguire, I'm looking at it and I'm going, if I want to go to the World Cup, I've got to play first team football, because I will not get away with... Look, Southgate was very loyal to Maguire, and Maguire would have played in the Euros. But if you look at the last 18 months, Maguire's not really played enough football for Man United compared to people, there's Tomori, there's obviously Branthwaite, there's Dunk, there's Guehi. Next season for the England qualifiers, if Maguire's on the bench for Man United starting and he's starting for England and Guehi's benched, people won't be happy about that. So I think if I'm Harry Maguire, I'm knocking on the door and saying, or I'm retiring from England, one of those two things. But we know with Lindelof, he'll definitely knock on the door. Lindelof has done it before. He's going to be knocking on the door and saying, I want to play. So 8 million for Lindelof to Fenerbahce. I wouldn't be thinking about whether it's sell Lindelof or Maguire. I think both probably should go. And they both should be asking to go. But Lindelof's going to knock on the door, and I think Ineos and Ten Hag will say, well, we respect that, and we just need to do the right deal for us. So I think Lindelof going, whether it's Fenerbahce or somewhere else, is probably highly likely. Nick James says it's interesting to hear Jim talk about Nice and the United collaboration, says Nick. Yeah, he's very much pro that sort of multi-club ownership model, isn't he? I don't like it. I don't like this City group. I don't like it. I don't think the clubs that are owned by it like it either. They basically become... It's like a game of dominoes, isn't it? You have a Man United at the top, then Nice in the next tier, and then you've got like a Swiss club. I don't like multi-club ownership. I know it's the way it's going, but I don't like it. It leads to things like what Man City have done with the Girona Savio player. If I was a fan of Nice and I knew we were a feeder club for Man United, it takes away your individuality. It takes away your integrity. But money talks, doesn't it? That's the way it is. You become a feeder football club. It's nice if you're the club at the top. For us, Man United, look, put my hands up. It's great. We can send players off there. Try before you buy. You think about Casido a few years ago when he was playing out in South America. We looked at it, but basically we said no because we just didn't know whether he'd be good enough. Whereas Brighton could afford to bring him in, and I think they loaned him off as well. Nowadays, you'd buy him for £5 million, you'd send him to Nice. So for us, it's beneficial, but I don't think it's beneficial for the clubs who are further down the food chain. But good point. Just very, very quickly, Conor Gallagher's been linked to Manchester United by AS, which is a Spanish reporter, a Spanish outlet. They got the letter wrong by one. It should be BS. We're not getting Conor Gallagher. I would take Conor Gallagher. I think he's better than a lot of the midfielders that we've got. I think he's better than McTominay, certainly. So I would go for Conor Gallagher, and I think he's a good player. But we aren't doing a deal with Chelsea. No way. Absolutely not. Villa can and will, but Chelsea ain't gonna. We're not gonna do a deal with Chelsea. Not like that. Michael says, in the same breath, talking of Maguire, he can knock on the door all he wants. Clubs will determine his wage demands. Another one who's got a massive contract with us. Maguire's got 2 years left on his contract. I think he signed the world's longest contract because he seems like he's been here for years, but I'm sure we gave him a 6+1, which actually someone should write a book about. I've never known Man United do a 6+1. I don't know what Woodward was thinking about again. I mean, again, that's a name that doesn't get mentioned enough. Richard Arnold, Murta, the Glazers. Ed Woodward's legacy at this football club is probably the worst. He presided over all the crap deals. Di Maria, Alexis Sanchez. 6+1 on Maguire. What was that all about? And I think Maguire's done well for us recently. And, I don't have a problem with Maguire, actually. I think he's shown exactly the sort of mentality you need. He's got his limitations, and I would sell him, of course. But, I think he's shown real mental strength and, bounce back ability, whatever you want to call it. But the 6+1 is a joke, an absolute joke. It really is. Anyway, there was something else I wanted to talk to you about. Fenerbahce, Everton, Nico Williams, Frimpong, Conor Gallagher, Benfica, Yoro. I think actually, I tell you what, I'm on fire this morning. I think I have. Just a bit of a shout out as well before I come back to the Manchester United news and go through some of your comments, which I like to do. Friday night show will be at 7 o'clock tonight because I'm doing Netherlands against France, which I think will be a cracking game. 8 o'clock on a Friday night, Netherlands against France. very impressed with Spain last night. We're doing all 3 watch-alongs today. We've got Austria, Ranjik at 5 o'clock. Please beat Poland. I think I'm right in saying Austria was where they did the film The Sound of Music, The Sound of Ranjik. Let's hope we get that tonight. But also, 2 o'clock today, Slovakia versus Ukraine. That's for the real ones. If you're joining us today for Slovakia versus Ukraine, apparently it's going to be the lowest viewed game of the whole Euros. We're doing a watch-along for it. Support the people doing it. Get over onto That's Football. Bremer for Sancho, straight swap, says Jason. Everton, Fab, say deal with 27 million plus add-ons, low ball robbery, said Matthew Scully. I don't know what that means, Matthew. I don't know what that means. Yeah. But thank you very much for that. I want to just check some news that's coming in as well. Martinez played for Argentina last night as well. Played very, very well, which is great. I mean, look, this might hurt your eyes a little bit. So Luke Shaw is still not training as part of the main England group. Now, I don't want you to get your blood boiling, and I'll probably get clipped for this because I've had it with England and I've had it with Southgate. As an English man who wants to see England win something, I'm into my 40s now. I don't want to die not seeing England win a major tournament. That's how, people say, oh, you're getting really stressed about England, right? I'm going to die not seeing England win a major tournament. Think about that. When I'm dead forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And before I was born, I wasn't alive forever and ever and ever. So I didn't see 66. And there's very, very, with every passing year, there's less chance of me seeing England win a Euros. So when people say, oh, stop moaning, like literally, people are dying because they're old or not, and they should be seeing England win a major tournament. So I'm not taking the piss. We should have won a tournament between 2002 and 2006, and we didn't. And we should have won a tournament between 2018 and 2024, and we haven't yet. So I'm not happy about the way England are being run. But there's a multitude of reasons to not be happy. But this is one that impacts on us, Manchester United. Luke Shaw is a massive player for us. And he has gone on England duty with some of our blessing. I wasn't bothered. Some of you were. But he wasn't fit for Man United in February, March, April and May. He should be on fucking holiday doing recuperation for pre-season, which starts in 2 or 3 weeks' time. Instead, he's part of an England setup and he's not even training with their first team at the moment. At some point, you've got to ask a question and say, look, we need Luke Shaw at left back for England. Bloody hell we do. But he ain't even training with the first team, and we're about to play our third game. Like, it's ridiculous. He shouldn't be there. If he's not part of the England first team training 2 weeks into the tournament, he shouldn't be at the tournament. And from a Man United point of view, this is concerning. Because his recuperation priority should be Man United. And Man United should be saying, hold on a minute, why is he not part of your first team training yet? Like, he shouldn't be there, Gareth. Harry Maguire's probably looking at that and going, I'd have been back fit by now. And I didn't get picked. He shouldn't be there. We've been sold a bloody lie here. If he's not training for the first team into the second week of the tournament, he shouldn't be there. This guy's coming back from it's nearly a 6-month layoff. He's not coming back from a broken toenail. This is a major injury that kept him out for 5 months. And he's still not ready to do first team training. He ain't ready for that fucking tournament. If he starts any game for England, I'm going to be like this. Because he clearly isn't ready. I'm not talking about I want him to play for England. We need him. But from a purely fitness point of view, he shouldn't be there. He shouldn't be there. And it's risking him for Man United now. It shouldn't be happening. Harry Maguire contract is like Phil Jones's contract, says Tom. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So a bit of breaking news there. Thank you very much for that. Simon Stone has given us that news, by the way. Yeah, I'm not going to read that one out because I think it's total bollocks about Zirkzee. What else have we got going on? What do you think about Rasmus last night? I think in a Denmark team, it's a bit like playing Manchester United. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't think he was bad. I just think, you know, it was international football, isn't it? I've seen Lewandowski play for Poland on no service, and he doesn't look that good. So I thought his movement was quite good, and Denmark could still have a good tournament. They were better than England, I think, for a lot of the game, but service wasn't great, really, in relation to him. Southgate will be panicked into putting Shaw in, and his hamstring, or even worse, will heal. Well, this is what I'm worried about, Spirit of Lakota. I think that this is what worries me. Southgate's under such massive pressure now. Luke Shaw's clearly not fit, and he goes and throws him into a tournament that, you know, he's desperate to try and turn things around for. You know, I want England to win the Euros for the reasons I've just said, obviously, but I think we're all becoming more and more aware that might not happen, and therefore you start to think about, you know, what's best for Manchester United, don't you? Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Fantastic show this morning. We've covered so much. I'm glad we have covered some things that, you know, probably isn't really being spoken about, because everyone's talking about Branthwaite and Zirkzee, and whilst they are ongoing high on the list things, there are other things going on as well. Frimpong, Barcelona, João Neves is likely. Whether Man United are the people that can do that deal, I think João Neves is a deal that's likely, because Benfica are not getting a lot of interest in other players and they will need to sell. So I think João Neves is likely with their financial issues. Lenny Oro needs to just not be spoken about anymore. I think we've been used there in relation to that, really. Anyway, take care, everyone. Don't forget, that's football. All the Euros watch-alongs. I'm back at 7 o'clock tonight with our evening show. Obviously, if anything happens in between, we'll be live. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Absolute legends for joining us this morning live. If you're not live, get your comments in. I'll speak to you all in a bit. Take care.